Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Environment and Sustainability Scrutiny Committee held on the 14th of September 2021. This meeting will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. This is a bit of an unusual meeting. We've had apologies from both Chair and Vice Chair. So the first item on today's agenda is to nominate a Chair for this meeting. Do I have any nominations, please?
I'll nominate Mike Adams.
Who was that, sorry?
Me, Colin, I nominate Mike Adams.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Second that, Mark.
Okay, so I'll just do a quick roll call now. If you could just say whether you're for, against, or if you're abstaining on the nomination that Councillor Mike Adams chairs this meeting this evening. Councillor Collis?
I'm for.
Councillor Ellsbury?
For, obviously.
Councillor Evans?
For.
Councillor Kent?
For.
Councillor Leonard, I believe you're on the phone. Councillor Owen?
For.
Councillor Priest? Councillor Priest? Councillor Roberts?
For, Mark, thank you.
Councillor Scriven? Councillor Scriven? And Councillor Williams?
For.
We do have a hand raised. Councillor Davis, you have your hands raised.
Yes.
And you're,
I support support on this one.
thank you very much, Councillor Davis. That's carried unanimously. The chair for this evening's meeting is Councillor Mike Adams by a majority. So over to you, Chair. So item 1 on the agenda.
Right, well, thank you very much for that, Mark.
Chair, if I could just come in, Chair, if I could just come in there, please. Councillor Priest, it's the first contact I've had with the meeting. Right, I don't know what is happening. They're coming back to me, not connecting, are connecting, no camera. You were mute on your mic, then I'm not. So, what do you suggest I do? Because obviously, I want to participate in the meeting. I didn't vote then, didn't even know there'd been a proposal for you to go chair. So what is the advice of you then, Chair?
Okay, Denver, it's Councillor Mike Adams. I was just proposed and seconded to be the chair for the evening. When we came to you, we couldn't get a signal back whether or not you were for or against.
I was for anyway. I was for.
For anyway. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. That's noted.
Don't try to get in if you're having all kinds of signals, but when you need to, as long as you can listen to what's going on, try to then contact us via the microphone. And but as long as we are still quorate, and can you confirm that we are quorate, Mark?
Yes, absolutely, Chair.
We will continue despite any members having problems of connection. Okay.
Well, what I'll do then, Chair, with your permission, is obviously I'll stop into the meeting. I'm not on camera anyway, and as long as I got my mic, then I can perhaps quite.
There we go. And we will.
That'll be all right.
Double check that at the time, and hopefully you will be able to vote on forms where that is necessary.
Fine, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Priest. Right, members. Apologies for absence now, item 1. Now, we have already had, obviously, the chair and vice chair's apologies. There are a couple of members didn't contact us during that verbal vote. Are we aware, Mark, of any other apologies?
Yes, Chair. We've also had apologies from Councillor Gale, Councillor Gare, and Councillor Julian Simmons.
Right, and we're not sure about Councillor Leonard, who is trying to be in touch with us over the phone only, isn't it? I can't see a telephone number up on the screen at this time.
That's correct, Chair.
So she probably hasn't been able to contact us. Councillor George, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, you just said it actually. Councillor Leonard is trying to get in at the moment.
Yeah, okay. Right. We'll hope to see a phone number come up if she's managed to do that. Thank you, Councillor George. Right, okay. So we've done the apologies. Go through to declarations of interest. Okay, councillors. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on this agenda, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution, and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Do we have any declarations of interest? If you can identify by putting your hand up. Gone through, can't see any that have come up. Okay, I'll accept that there's no declarations of interest. Mark, can you make a note of that?
Yes, I will, Chair.
Okey-doke. Right, to approve and sign the following minutes. Item 3, Environment and Sustainable Scrutiny Committee held on the 22nd of June 2021. And that's 4 pages. We shall go through that now for accuracy. Okay, right, members, page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4.
Move, Chair.
Move, and is that seconded by anyone?
Yes.
Okay, that's moved and seconded. Do we need a vote on that one, Mark?
Yes, Chair. A poll will appear on members' screens now, and if they could vote for, against, or abstain. Thank you. And then click the submit button.
Mark, unfortunately, all I've got is the forms screen come up, but no poll.
Okay, okay, Councillor Collis, can I, if I take your vote verbally then?
It's Colin, not Collis.
It's Colin Ellsbury.
Oh, sorry, sorry, Councillor Ellsbury.
Yeah, obviously I'm in favour, yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
And showing one abstention at the moment.
That's carried unanimously. That's carried, Chair, with 8 votes, including Councillor Ellsbury verbally, and as you say, 1 abstention.
1 abstention. Okay,
that was
then.
me because I wasn't at the meeting.
That's it. Thank you, Steve. Okay, thank you, members. That one is carried. We now go over to get onto that. Don't go too far. The Environment and Sustainability Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. That's in front of us on your screen, and
yeah.
Do we looking for any Any additions, any changes to this, members?
Yeah, shall I introduce this bit, Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So members are asked to consider the forward work programme alongside the Cabinet work programme as appended to the report, and to suggest any changes. If members are happy, I would like to seek approval to publish the Environment and Sustainability Scrutiny Committee forward work programme to the Council's website. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I just heard that Councillor Leonard has joined us by the phone. Councillor Leonard, we're just at the forward work programme stage of the agenda. Welcome to this evening's meeting. It's Councillor Mike Adams. I've been voted to be the temporary chair for this evening.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that sounds fine. Thank you very much for endeavouring to get with us. Okay. So we've just gone through the forward work programme, and that's also appended with the Cabinet forward work programme as well. Cabinet, of course, will be meeting tomorrow. So do we anybody want? Councillor Kent has got his hand up.
Hi. I was under the impression that this month we were going to have an update on the 4 temporary, 18-month road closures around 4 schools in the borough, and highways were going to give an update because it's been a year now. I'm just wondering if that can be added on, please, for the next meeting.
I'm sure that, and we discussed that at a previous meeting, Steve, and you were expecting that to be an issue, an item for tonight's meeting?
Not so much tonight, but I thought we were going to have an annual review.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
Because it was September the 7th last year it came into force.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether we can have it on a report, even if Mark thinks that's better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Do we need to make reference to any officer to commit to that?
Marcus Lloyd is in attendance tonight, Chair, if you'd like to bring Marcus in.
Okay, Marcus, if you'd like to just, and we're talking about making sure this is on a future agenda.
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, Marcus, if you'd like to comment.
It can either be a report or we can update members separately. It's up to you. I don't mind. We did say we would provide an update. It's only just gone the 12 months now, so it's about the right time for us to undertake that review and pull something together. And it wouldn't be done until after the 12 months has expired, which has just happened.
Yeah.
But I'm more than happy to bring a report back to scrutiny at the future date, or provide some information to members separately outside.
I'll be brilliant to have a report, please, Marcus, if I don't mind.
What have we got at the next meeting, 26th of the 10th? There are 3 items down for that date at the moment, Mark.
Yes, Chair.
Marcus, would you get a report ready for the next meeting, do you think?
Given that it's only 6 weeks and that I know that the workload that staff have got, I'd rather put it back to the one after that if possible.
That would be the 7th of the 12th. 7th of December. Okay.
That would be better.
Yep. I'm
happy with that, Steve, as you brought that one up?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then if we can add that one on for the 7th of the 12th, and that's only at the moment got 2 items on, so we should be able to fit that in. Okay. Members, are we happy about that?
Yep.
No, nobody against. We won't have a vote necessarily for that then. Mark, are you happy?
Yeah, if you could just get someone to move and second it, then, Chair.
Councillor Priest will move that.
Councillor Priest has moved it.
I'll second it.
Okay, so that's the forward work programme as appended with the addition just mentioned, and a ballot should appear on members' screens now.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Councillor Leonard, did you manage to hear most of that discussion? It was an addition to the forward work programme regarding road closures around some schools, and that will come forward for December.
Yeah, I think I voted for it. It seems to be coming up on my laptop.
Oh, it came
anyway.
up. Oh, well done. Thank you very much for that. Over to you, Mark.
That's been carried unanimously, Chair.
I didn't have no vote come up on my screen, Chair. So, but I was for it anyway.
Right. So that's a verbal vote for.
Councillor Priest.
Councillor, thank you, Denver. Right. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to agenda item number 7, and this is the first of our 2 notices of motion this evening.
Sorry, Chair. There's just a couple of items before that. So we've just got there was an item agenda 4 that there's no the call-ins for this committee meeting.
Right. That's right.
And also the cabinet reports. None of the cabinet reports listed on the agenda have been brought forward. Thank you, Chair.
That's right. Yeah. No, I meant to ask you that at the pre-meeting, actually. Thanks, members. So we are on now item number 7, which is the first of our notices of motion, Real Nappies Incentive Scheme. Okay. Who is introducing this to the report? I can see that Andrew is with us. Okay, do we introduce the report and then go over to Andrew Farina Childs to then formally go through his notice of motion?
That's right, Chair. The notice is in the name of Councillor Farina Childs, who will now have a maximum of 5 minutes to put forward the case outlined in the notice of motion.
Okay, then. Can I ask before you start, Andrew, are any of your supporting signees hoping to speak this evening on it?
Not as far as I know, Chair, no.
Just yourself. Okay. Thank you, Councillor.
I won't be long.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks very much then, Councillor.
Right. First of all, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak this evening on my motion to request that we as a council introduce a voucher scheme to allow parents to purchase real or reusable nappies. The reason for this motion is that I was approached by a resident asking why we as an authority do not have such a scheme in place when other authorities do. I've listed participating authorities in my notice of motion, and one of them is our neighbours, which is Torvine. I do believe that this would or could potentially help parents, especially in light of COVID, where people have been furloughed or unfortunately lost their jobs, but also could possibly assist us and make a contribution to our own carbon reduction commitment. For financial reasons, parents over a 2.5-year period, I've said in the motion, could save up to £1,300, and we could also reduce the carbon by 40%. So that is it in a nutshell, really. But I would just like to thank you once again and hope that yourself and the Scrutiny Committee would hopefully be favourable and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farina Childs, for that. Members, any other comments on this or questions, either for Councillor Childs or to any officers? No? I'd like to say a few things. Oh, Councillor Kent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I fully support this. I think it's a great idea as neighbourhood authorities do it. But is it going to be, if we support this, would it be run in conjunction with an advertising campaign, social media, newsline, everything else to encourage people and make them aware of the scheme? Otherwise, if we can just pass it and say, yeah, we support it, I think it's almost an education issue, this is, because we're in a throwaway society. And everything's convenience to buy nappies and do other things. And I think when our parents were using reusables, or Hessian sacks in some cases probably, but yeah, I think it's worthwhile getting our social media team, our marketing team on board and letting them lead as well.
Thanks, Councillor Kent.
Thank you.
Mark Williams has his hand up. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points that may sort of assist members in the thought process here. So, Councillor Freda Childs mentions in his notice of motion the fact that you know, the disposable nappies that we probably all brought our kids up on at some time or other don't degrade easily in landfill. That is absolutely correct. However, our waste, of course, is not landfilled. It is in fact incinerated. So, you know, there isn't an issue in terms of us landfilling nappies. Tried my best to get information out of other authorities on this. Scant detail, I'm afraid. However, I think the one message that has come through fairly clearly from all authorities that run these schemes, and you know, it's not, certainly not, we're not the only ones who don't, there are many that don't, some that do, is that take-up is not significant. Swansea, for example, only 132 of their residents took it up in the last financial year that they gave me information for. So, you know, in terms of giving and Swansea operate they give £100 voucher when somebody proves that they've spent on real nappies. So just over 13,000, but only 132 residents took it up out of a, you know, population the size of Swansea. So take up is not significant. If members are minded to support the notice of motion, obviously it goes to council and is supported, then obviously we will need to get budget provision in place during the next financial year. We'll need to look at how we're going to run the scheme. It will probably be via the Caerphilly Cares service. And obviously there will be some back office costs associated with running the scheme as well. I think that was the word of caution that came from Swansea. The back office effort, when you compare it to the actual take-up, was potentially not really, you know, not really bang for the buck, if you like. So, you know, just some facts for members to consider in their thought process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask one quick question, if you could, please, Chair?
There was someone in front of you, but Councillor Owen, will you allow Councillor Priest to come in?
Certainly, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor, because I got a bit of problem with my computer here. Yeah, just a quick yay or nay, really. Perhaps Mark can help me here. Would what the council has proposed, would it be on demand, or would it be a daily or weekly allocation? How would we counteract that?
I think
we can have a quick answer to that if you can, Mark.
I think it would be on demand. Just the way others operated.
All right, fine. Thank you for that, Mark Williams. Thank you.
Okay, now Councillor Bob Owen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, similarly to what my comments really is similarly to what Councillor Kent said. I think it's an excellent idea. Of course, there will be costs, but I think we've got a lot more longer term, and it's educational, as he said. If we get more people on the take-up, we get this as sort of becomes a bit of a national drive eventually. It's got to be in our interests, particularly for us as a borough and for the country. That's all I got to say, really. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. Councillor Kent, you've spoken once. Is this something new for us?
Yes, sorry.
Go on.
I think when we're looking at this, I think we should look at this with partners as well, the Iron Bevan Health Board, because their midwifery department, if they're talking to new mums and new parents, I think that's where it needs to start. And if they're pushing this scheme on our behalf, it possibly is a way that the health board and council can share cost, or different incentives can be added. So it might be worth pulling them into the conversation as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kent. On that point, our close relationship that we have on such a regular basis with an Iron Bevan, I'm sure that we could have a really good interface on that if we did go through with this proposal. But on a personal note, I don't mind telling you, I was brought up at a very young age in terry towel nappies, and my sons are old enough to have only ever worn terry towel nappies. So I'm not quite sure what it's like to live in a household where you have all of that disposal going on with a couple of young children. But yeah, generally support this, but with the comments that Mark has reminded us of, it isn't something you can just say, yes, we want to do it, and then it's easily done. There would be many things that we need to look through, and also the take-up. So many very young mothers, I'm sure, wouldn't want to be going through the process of plenty of white towels on the line day in, day out. So, but it's something that we should be realistic and look at, because it's part of our environmental lifeline, isn't it? So, members, we've got Councillor Ellsbury. Councillor Owen, your hand is still showing. Have you got another question, or is that?
No, sorry, legacy. Legacy.
Okay. Councillor Ellsbury.
Thanks, Chair. You've actually sort of stolen my thunder there on the environmental aspect. I think this also sends a message, because we have passed a climate emergency, as have the Welsh Government, and we should be encouraging people to reuse. And I know what Mark says. I've been to see the incinerator, and I was on project with, and it's great that we are using that rather than going into the landfill. But I do think we also need to send a message that we are in a red zone here as far as the environment is concerned, and we need to reuse and recycle as much as possible. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ellsbury. Any other members? I can hear a voice in the background, I thought then. No. Councillor Leonard, your microphone is on.
I don't think it is. It was just on mute. I don't think that was me.
No, it just is showing up. Okay then.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a lot then. Okay, members. So we have a notice of motion which has been properly discussed. Are there any members wishing to support or oppose?
This chair doesn't need to be moved or seconded, so there's just a poll, and members are asked whether or not they support the motion which is put in front of them, so for, against, or abstain, and a poll will appear on screens. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, members, and obviously members only can vote on this.
That's correct, Chair, just members of the committee. Thank you.
Any votes from Councillor Leonard?
Yes,
have you managed to vote?
No, I don't think so. I'll vote for.
You'll vote for. Anyone else who hasn't been able to vote on screen? No, we have. I'd like to call out the vote then, Mark.
Yes, Chair, that's been carried 9-4 with 1 against.
Okay then, so that one is supported by the members of the committee.
That's correct, and we'll go to full council now.
I will go to full council. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Andrew, for presenting that, and all the other contributors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, the committee. Thank you.
Now we can go to item number 8, which is another notice of motion, the abolition of car parking charges in town centre car parks. Okay, and this is presented by Councillor Kevin Etheridge, and I can see he's here present, ready to introduce his motion. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, Thank you, Chair. I was sort of brought up with Terry Towell as well, so we've got something in common. This notice of motion, it was tabled a number of months ago prior to Cabinet making their decision about the 12-month rule. I was approached by a number of traders and businesses in Blackwood High Street who said that free car parking should continue for the foreseeable future. A number of letters were sent in and also a number of verbal comments. A number of the shopkeepers and the staff who work in the shop said, we appreciate that some members have said that we are taking up car parking spaces and that should be for residents. But can you please emphasise, Councillor Etheridge, that in the mornings and especially at lunchtime, we go out to the high street and we spend our money in Poundland, Wilkinson's, Asda, Aldi's. So where we feel that criticism may be unjust, we do our shopping in the high streets as well. So I then received 440 named petition from residents, traders, and they are not all from Blackwood. They are from various parts of Caerphilly County Borough asking for free car parking. And that will be presented to full council on the first week of October. The motion tabled before you asks for free car parking charges in the town centre for the foreseeable future, and it asks for charges to be abolished. As I said, it's the traders and businesses and residents of Caerphilly County Borough. Before I finish, I would like to thank Cabinet for extending the period for 12 months. You know, that is greatly appreciated. Traders have come back and said thank you, but it leaves them in a term of uncertainty, because what they've said is, we see that a working party is going to be set up. After the 12-month period, we know that, you know, there is an election in May. Will priorities change? So we need to make the high streets vibrant. We need to support business. We need to support our residents. And I would like you to consider abolishing the car parking charges for the town centres only. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Etheridge. I got a couple of questions from that. You mentioned about the 440 name petition, not all from Blackwood. Do you know if they're also signing petitions for the other car parks in other town centres? That actually didn't come up very well on screen. That could be interesting and grist to their mill on that. And as you've already mentioned about Task and Finish Group, I'm sure the remit that they investigate won't change before or after any election. The parameters, I'm sure, will have to stay the same. But that's for other people to perhaps add to this conversation this evening. Okie doke. I just going to say also, I was in Blackwood car park there, and it was a real hard job finding a place to park, because it is now so popular. Yeah, if you'd like to quickly answer that one.
Yeah, the parking petition reads, we the undersigned residents, shoppers and high street traders hereby ask Caerphilly County Borough Council to abolish car parking charges within the whole of the borough town centres to ensure the viability of our towns. So we are not just talking about Blackwood.
Thanks for that clarification, but the question was based on, you presented this really for Blackwood's benefit. I wonder if it's going on elsewhere Possibly not, because that one hopefully is good enough. Right, we've got a number of hands already up. And in reply to some of those points, would you like to speak now, Councillor Pritchard?
Yes, Chair, if that's okay, if I could just take a couple of minutes in response.
Okay, and that you'll be followed, I'm sure, by Councillor Mark Williams. Did have his hand up, but it's gone now. Carry on, Councillor Pritchard.
Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to come in. And thanks, members. And it's my first meeting of the Scrutiny Committee. Very happy to be part of the Scrutiny Committee. So, members, I'm sure you're aware that this came to Cabinet on the 1st of September. And what I'll do is I'll just read out the recommendations that the Cabinet agreed on the 1st of September, and just elaborate on some of those points, and also respond briefly to some of the points raised by Councillor Etheridge. So on the 1st of September, Cabinet unanimously agreed to extend the period of free car parking in town centres for a further 12 months until the 30th of September 2022. They also agreed the projected income shortfall of 660,000 be funded from the previous approved COVID-19 earmark reserve. Just a note on that, that's not in terms of the 660 doesn't come into the cost of the machines, that's income loss. So I wanted to put that point straight. That the Joint Scrutiny Committee cross-party task and finish group and to undertake a further review of town centre car parking charges in light of the effects of the pandemic on the economy of our town centres. Resident season ticket only use for the 3 car parks in Blackwood be removed for the duration of the free car parking. And an additional recommendation was recommended by the leader, and that's officers bring back a report that sets out the proposals to manage the interface between businesses and customer parking at the Toyn Car Park, Caerphilly and Blackwood High Street Car Park, having consideration for the 12-month period of this decision. Just to touch on a couple of those points, Councillor Etheridge, in his notice of motion, asks for the car parking charges to be removed for the foreseeable future. Well, Cabinet is certainly of a mind that a 12-month extension to the 30th of September 2022 can definitely be considered a foreseeable future. Members will remember that the extension period was only 3 months every time, and we consider that to be on the low side. So we wanted to give 12 months as a substantial amount of time. Regarding the Joint Scrutiny Cross-Party Task and Finish Group, it was alluded to, quoted that businesses were considering that this had something to do with an election period. Well, that's nothing of the sort, because the Joint Scrutiny Committee Cross-Party Task and Finish Group was actually began in 2016. So this has been going on for a number of years. And the point we would like to highlight, and it was raised in Cabinet, was that this is an opportunity for the cross-party membership, so Plaid Cymru, Labour and independent members, to all play their part in shaping the future of car parking charges. So everybody's given an opportunity, not just the Labour Cabinet, but all members of the council. We think that was very important. So there's certainly the views of the Cabinet Chair. I'll leave it there, but I thought it was important to give those views loud and clear. But what I would just finish on, this is about supporting businesses, and we have extended free car parking now for up to 27 months. That's a significant period of time, which dwarfs many of our neighbours. So we do support businesses, we do support traders. We think 12 months is very, very substantial, but we are there to support the traders. And as I said, Chair, I'll leave it there now. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. We've got a couple of other hands. I know that Mark Williams, but if we have a few more comments of members, Mark, it might give you other issues that you could try to answer as well. So it's Councillor Ellsbury first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yes, pity the timing on this comes after the Cabinet. In relation to free parking, yes, I think it's a good idea to bring in extra support for traders. But the problem that we have said about Caerphilly, especially the Toyn Car Park, is that at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's full. And it stays full until about 5 o'clock in the evening. And we often get comments, people are popping into the former tourist information centre, I think it's now called Cafe Italia, and I get comments from people in town saying, well, town's quite quiet, but the car park's full. And unfortunately, sometimes traders are shooting themselves in the foot by parking there all day. So you've got people coming from the banks, the building societies, the estate agents, they just park it all day and it's free for them. And this notion that, yes, they do spend money in town, but they used to spend money in town when they parked in Crescent Road car park and paid long stay. The problem is that by parking in the car park in the time, they're forcing shoppers out, and they then have to go and park the side streets where they're only allowed an hour. They have sometimes parking in loading bays, and that's becoming a major problem, especially for heavy goods vehicles like Iceland who deliver during the day. They can't park in the loading bays at the moment. They have to get somewhere at 6 o'clock in the morning and put out cones. And then when they come back, they found someone has removed the cones, parked in the car in the lay-by and put the cones back. So you've then got an articulated lorry waiting on Cardiff Road opposite the bus stop so they can get in and load and unload. So it is causing problems. I support the free parking, no problem with that. I think it's a great idea. But I do think, and I appreciate what the Cabinet have said, is that we do need to look at perhaps 2 hours free in the major sort of Blackwood area, or especially in the Tyne, and the Tyne is obviously what I'm looking at, so that you have a rotation, a flow of shoppers and also retailers, because at the moment it's not working. We've been told this by retailers, we've been told this by members of the public, and also Steve Wilcox, who's the town centre manager. He actually brought that to our attention. We had a walk through town and he said the same as we did. So basically that's my comment on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Ellsbury. And those kind of problems are the kind of things that I'm sure the Task and Finish group will be very, very interested in, how we can come up with a possible solution for those kind of issues. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, I would say, of course, that the Task and Finish group started way before the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
You put on hold, and then we started again. And then
there are new issues for them to now look at.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be another long, drawn-out process.
Okay. Councillor Kent, are these going to be very different questions to Colin?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I'm going to go back to 2019 when I think it was in the summer, and we were talking to the gentleman in charge of car parking at the time. And I was told about making our idea was making Crescent Road free, even though it's a long stay. And it was saying it can't make it free because it's a money spinner in a sense. I went down there 5 days, Monday to Friday, every day, and the lowest number of empty spaces was 90. So that car park was not being used. But as far as the time goes, when non-essential retail finally reopened and having the kids in school, I used to go drop the kids into Tyne. I'd go in there for 5 minutes, drop the kids off, back in the car, and you'd always get a space. And like Colin said, as soon as the non-essential retail had to go ahead to open, that car park was full. And he says 9 o'clock, but it was full by 20 to 9 when I got down there. I think if we're going to put this to a Task and Finish group, it would have to be fast track, because a Task and Finish group would probably take longer than September 2022 to come back with recommendations or result, because these things tend, like you say, it's been going 5 years now. I suppose I've got a bit of a concern that the way I think could be handled in the short term is do a traffic survey. The number of flow of cars in and out of town centre car parks. I know Blackwood's car park is massive. It's a fair-sized car park. When we're talking about the time, we have tourists coming, and sometimes people just drive straight through. So I think a simple traffic survey for 3 or 4 days to count the turnaround of cars in that car park would give a true representation of the spaces filled all day. And that's quite a simple sort of thing to do, that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Right, I think it's fair now to ask Mark Williams to come back. A few things been thrown at him, at us. Mark Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, Marcus Lloyd is in attendance as well. So if Marcus wants to come in, if he can raise his hand. But Just a couple of things. Obviously, Cabinet took the decision they did on the 1st of September and are acutely aware of the issues at the Toyne. There are similar issues at Blackwood, where the car park is, largely full all day, people working. The problem is, as Councillor Kent has highlighted and Councillor Elsby, it's exacerbated at the Toyne because it's much smaller than the Blackwood car park. The charges would overcome that. 2 hours free, then charges would overcome that. But those, with the exception of charges, which we can implement quite easily because we have a charging scheme which has been agreed as part of our traffic regulation order, any other changes require amendment to the TRO, and that process takes approximately 6 months and quite a lot of effort. There's a legal process that has to be gone through. So there is no quick fix to this other than reintroducing charges. But the cabinet we're all acutely aware of the issue at the Toyne. I met the cabinet member there a number of weeks ago, and neither of us could park because the car park was full. But there isn't a quick fix. And Marcus has got his hand up, Chair, if you want to bring him in.
Thank you, Mark. Marcus, this is in support of Mark's answers to Councillor Kent and others, so I don't mind bringing you in at this point.
It's just I support everything Marcus said. It's just to provide a bit of clarity to the item that Councillor Kent raised with regard to the traffic count. Yeah, they can be done quite easily, but they are resource intensive, because the issue with a traffic count of car parks is to know what those flows are, they need to be done manually by staff. So it has to be resourced, because you can't use automated counters, because it could be just cars coming in and out. They've driven in there, they can't find a car parking space, so they drive back out. So that doesn't really give you the true reflection. So it is quite resource intensive. You'd have to have staff there sitting there all day, then looking at the vehicle registrations to try and get a feel for who's coming in, who's going out, and how long they stay in, etc.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay. I can see that you stayed online with your hand up, Steve. That's a legacy one, is it? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Now we can go to Councillor Bob Owen. Thanks, Bob, for your patience.
Talking of patience, Chair.
Yeah, I don't mind people jumping in front of me all the time. What's going on at the moment with reference to the decision to extend until September is of course to be applauded. It's given us that bit of extra time. But when we talk about COVID and where we are with COVID, we don't know where we are with COVID even now. And task and finish groups, and I was part of the last car park task and finish group at the end. And basically, we were looking at not just the Blackwood and Caerphilly, we were looking at the smaller towns like Riscar and Bargoed and Newbridge. Yeah. And my concern is, particularly with those towns as well, that at some point, we could be looking to introduce charges elsewhere. And Riscar's got the smallest footfall in a borough in terms of the ones that are counted. And we certainly can't afford to bring in car parking charges in Riscar, particularly now. And to be fair throughout the borough, although Blackwood is bigger and Caerphilly is bigger, we can't be then saying to those, well, you've got to pay because of other reasons. So I think we got to look at a compromise. Just to come back on what Marcus just said about volunteers looking to do counting and whatever, is there any way that we can get volunteers to do that? I mean, we used to do that for years and years on the 7 bridges, have people sat on the overbridges counting cars and lorries, etc. I mean, sometimes you get, it hasn't always got to be our paid employees. I'm sure there'll be people out there that possibly we could use, But like I say, this is going to be a long-standing issue. But overall, again, if we're going to keep all our towns, sort of prosperous, or to get them to come back up from where they are, I think we got to look at longer term, much longer than September next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And those are comments, of course, that especially the one on the volunteers. And I don't know whether either Marcus or Mark would like to come on that. But also, I can notice that Denver Priest's microphone is actually on, but he hasn't got a hand up. So, Councillor Priest, do you have a question which I'll bring you in after Marcus?
Yes, if you would, please, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much then. Marcus?
Thank you, Chair. It's just Councillor Owen, obviously there is a possibility of trying to use volunteers, but I would say they're few and far between these days. And obviously there'd be a training issue that we'd have to go through, make sure they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it could be something we could consider, but I would have thought it would be quite time consuming to get into that position, and it'd probably be better and have more weight if we used people who were in the transportation environment.
Okay, right. Thanks, Marcus. Councillor Priest, you were the last indication that I got of a question, so I will say you are the last one.
Fine, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, only one or two simple questions actually. Obviously, it was a little short amount given by Mark on the actual cost to have no parking fees whatsoever, and also what we're getting out of it as it is now. They have to be looked after, these car parks, whether we like it or not, which brings me to one point then of non-drivers, ratepayers, who have actually spoken to me about it. You know, we pay for it, you know, and it's quite right. You've got, so that's why I've had to bring it here to you, you know. And the other thing being, we keep talking about shopping and Council Win fair play. There's other places right around our borough. It's a really big place, Caerphilly County Borough, right? But what has happened to I believe they were in conjunction with the superstore and everything, free bus services, which I don't think operates now. So that's my simple questions. The first, second, and third. Perhaps someone will help me with an answer for me, please. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Well, I can answer the one, actually. There is a free bus service to Asda from Blackwood car park, bus station, back and forth, quite regular. And I think they probably still operate in some of our other major centres, but there we go.
Yeah, but excuse me, Chair,
okay.
let me just come back in a minute now. What I'm talking about the original ones, and I was involved with the original ones, the Oldham Slim Borough Council, and that started from Newport all the way up to the valleys, all the way through the valleys, up and down, picking up at every bus stop for people. Now, I know people got cars and all that now, but it's still the sort of thing with amounts of monies we pay the bus companies as well. And you know what I'm talking about there. Have we really looked at it to perhaps bring it back into operation?
Well, okay, I'll answer that one as well, about all the way down the valley, because many years ago, my wife used to catch the bus in Ponnell's Drive all the way down to Asda in Newport. I don't know whether that's the one you mean. And she used to love Asda because of it. There we go. That's just me answering that very quick thing. Now, we've got Councillor Kevin Etheridge. I don't know whether I should be giving you another opportunity to. I know you brought this up at the beginning. It'll have to be the very last.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order.
That's what I need
Point of
to be
order.
told.
You can't speak again.
Can I answer the points?
Point of order, Chair. I don't think
the points were to be answered by our officers who are employed for that purpose. You made all of your points, Councillor Etheridge. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. So it's Mark Williams to finish off.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take Councillor Priest's questions, I think in the order they were asked. So Councillor Priest asked about a very valid question about the cost of providing car parks. So typically, pre-COVID income for car parking throughout the county borough was, if I just give you a range, because it does vary year on year, of between about sort of 630 and 700,000, okay, per annum income. And it costs us sort of between 550 and 600,000 to actually provide those car parks. So we don't, people think, oh, well, there we are, we're making a nice £100,000 profit. We don't actually, because that is invested into other highway services, road safety services, road safety campaigns. So without that car parking income, if that car parking income disappeared and the authority took a decision to remove car parking charges per se on a permanent basis, then either the Highways and Infrastructure Division would need to find other savings of the order of 700,000. So, that could be cut in resurfacing, could be cut in road safety work, it could be cut in a raft of other services, or the authority would have to provide the budget to replace that lost income. So, car parks are not the cash cow that many people perhaps think that they are. Councillor Priest's other question relating to the free bus service, I can't really comment, maybe Marcus can in terms of the wider aspects, but I know that the Asda free bus in Blackwood ceased a few months ago. That was a business decision taken by Asda, so that no longer exists now.
Right. Thank you, Mark. I thought it was still running, but Marcus has got some other supporting evidence or comments, I think.
Thank you, Chair. Just to support Mark with that comment with regards to the supermarket buses, they have more or less stopped across the whole of the borough and in other boroughs because they were subsidised by the supermarkets, who are now not subsidising them. So there is nothing. We used to have one as well running from Rumney across to Asda's up in Dowlais. That's stopped right, as well. Yeah. They've withdrawn all of those services.
Yeah. So,
right,
Chair,
Chair,
if I could just have one little quick one. I've been pretty good all night. I haven't said a lot. Can I have one little quick one to come in there now?
Is it a different one? Is it a different one? Because if I now allow you,
it's actually a point. It's actually a point I asked about. And well, what about the subsidies that I usually say about the bus companies don't want to put it on, right? But what about the subsidies that we still pay to the bus companies? We're getting free bus passes now. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the bus companies still have subsidies off councils, right? For the bus passes and stuff like that. So why are they all of a sudden stopped on the free bus service they used to give to their own stores? There's got to be a reason. Thank you.
Okay, that's your last input. I don't know whether we've got a quick answer to that, Marcus or Mark.
Yeah, I can try and answer that, Chair. It's just given a bit of clarity that they are different. The services that were running to the supermarkets were subsidised by the supermarkets and not by the authority. The authority subsidises other services that run within the borough that cannot achieve a commercial profit for the providers of the services.
Yeah, like the rail link from Blackwood to Ystrad Mynach.
Right on, fine, thanks for your answers. Thank you.
Many of the services that we provide just connecting the towns and villages are subsidised.
Okay. Councillor Roberts, I had told Councillor Preece would be the last one to speak, but you've been waiting. Is this a quick one, or is it backing up for some of the earlier questions?
Thank you, Chair. Seeing that we're talking car parks and Mark's comment about income coming in from town car parks are car parks. This is not about town car parks, but it's pre-COVID, but it's to do with income coming in and how much we spend. Not town car parks, but when you count park and rides, we spend money on park and rides. How much would we spend in a year on park and rides? And let's ask the question, although we know the answer, how much income do we get from those? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Can we have a quick answer to that one, Mark or Marcus?
You can have a partial answer, Chair. I don't have the expenditure for specific locations, but obviously I'm sure members where we don't charge at park and rides.
No.
I never have, because You know, the mantra has been to try and encourage the use of public transport and reduce the traffic on the road.
Yeah.
So there are many reasons we don't charge for park and rides. That's one. Another reason is, take my local one, Pengham. You know, potentially charging would force people to try and park in side streets. And, you know, the side streets in and around some of those park and rides are not great.
Okay. I know that wasn't the kind of answer you wanted, Councillor Roberts, but perhaps we can look into that a little bit further and get some kind of information that might go towards helping us along. Thank you all very much for those questions and the answers. Thank you, gents. Mark, we now need to go for that notice of motion, and
that's correct, Chair. A poll will now appear on members' screens and they'll be asked to vote for, against or abstain from the motion. So if they support the motion, then for, and if they're against, abstain or
okay,
no.
then.
Thank you.
It's up on the screen now, members. Okay, let's vote. Right. Any members who can't see the voting square? Any members need to vote over the phone? No? Okay, Denver, your microphone is still on. You please mute.
Is that?
Has everyone voted, Mark?
We have 11 votes. So yes, there's 3 votes for, 6 votes against, and 2 abstentions.
Okay, so that notice of motion is not supported.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks everyone who took part in that. It was a very interesting discussion, and I know it will continue via the committee that will be sitting or is sitting on car parking. So now we can move to agenda item 9, and I think Environment and Sustainable Scrutiny Committee Directorate Performance Assessment Communities Year-End Report 2020-21.
Mr. Chair, can you excuse, Mr. Chair? Sorry, can you excuse me now, please?
Yes. Oh, okay. Look after yourself, Councillor Davis. Hope to hear and see you soon.
Yes, Chair. I'm introducing.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Councillor Whitcomb.
It's to present the Scrutiny and Economy and Environment Directorate Performance Assessment, the DPA, which is part of the Council's annual performance framework. The DPA provides information analysis for the 2021 financial year. The report covers a number of areas within the Communities Directorate. So on this occasion, it's far easier if I hand over to Mark S. Williams, who can take us through the detail of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcomb. Mark Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Whitcomb. As Councillor Whitcomb says, so it's the Directorate Performance Assessment. You will recall, members, that this Scrutiny Committee was actually the Scrutiny Committee that piloted the use of these. So this is the second or third time you will have seen the DPA. So it does cover all of my directorate, which obviously is a lot of services. But just to add confusion, those are split across 2 Scrutiny Committees. So last Tuesday, I took the DPA to Regen and Housing, and they scrutinised the elements relating to planning and regen, because obviously they sit within the remit of that scrutiny. So tonight, you will be scrutinising the other elements of that DPA, so community and leisure services, infrastructure division, highways, etc., sport and leisure, waste management, parks, etc., so everything other than regen and planning. Marcus Lloyd and Rob Hartshorn are both here if you have any specific questions about the service areas. Obviously, it is a vast document. It does cover a lot, and deals with many areas in terms of sort of resources, whether they be people, money, the risks, our performance last year, and as Councillor Whitcomb said, it's for the last financial year 2020-21, which, as I'm sure you will all agree, was a year like no other. Just in terms of service provision, I'd like to put on record my thanks to all of those services for just keeping things going. Particularly frontline services that have been continued to be delivered to our residents quite seamlessly. We saw other authorities stopping certain waste collection services through the pandemic. Frontline collection services. So Cardiff, for example, stopped the garden waste collection service. We didn't do any of that. Certain things we were forced to do because of Welsh Government regulation. We had to shut our household waste recycling centres. We've had to shut things like leisure centres. But the other thing to place on record is my thanks to other staff in areas like sport and leisure that have just gone on and done other things. Leisure centres were closed, sports development activities ceased, and they were quite happy to deliver free school meals, to work as part of the track and trace system, to help an Iron Bevan Health Board set up a mass vaccination centre and manage it at Newbridge. So staff have been absolutely fantastic. And then obviously the other area worthy of mention is public protection, where our environmental health officers and training standards officers who have been at the forefront of dealing with the pandemic, environmental health staff in terms of controlling the pandemic with colleagues from Public Health and an Iron Bevan Health Board, working with care homes, working with schools, and then trading standards who've been dealing with, COVID enforcement when businesses have reopened. So, real, as I say, a year like no other, hopefully not to be repeated, but I suspect that may not be the case given the way the COVID case numbers are going, but just, fantastic effort from all the staff. The DPA does reflect, some of the comments in there reflect that effort of staff, but obviously some areas performance has been skewed because of that very strange year that we've had. So I won't say any more than that, Chair. Obviously, if members have specific questions on areas of the DPA, then the relevant heads of service are you and myself to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I've got the very first question, but you've answered it already because, as you know, I was in last week's meeting where when I looked at this report, I thought there's an awful lot of overlap, an awful lot. And you've answered why. So thanks very much for going through that. There was an awful lot to read last week. There's been an awful lot to reread this week. So I hope you have some questions of members. Members, over to you. You've stymied them all, Mark. Perhaps many of them saw last week's report as well, and I might have looked at the recording of last week's meeting, and the questions there answered many that they might have had here.
Yeah, fair point, Chair.
Does happen. Okay, right. Well, if there aren't any more questions to come up for either Mark or Marcus or any of the other officers, which you can see on your report.
Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know it's my fault. It was my fault. It's the thumb.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I can see. I'm looking down the list. I can see that your microphone is on again, Councillor Priest. So fire away.
Right, thank you very much. Actually, it's a congratulatory. I hope this sounds like this to Mark and his departments that he's in charge of. The number of people who said to me in my constituency and my own experience with social services with my family over this last 12 months have been second and none anywhere. And Mark, please, if just off me, if you've got the chance, but thank you through to all your department and all the guys and girls that work for you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Priest. I will certainly pass that on.
Yeah, You had comments like that last week from a number of members. I hope I joined in then. If not, I certainly would like to join in again. We've had a number of opportunities throughout the last year, both at council and other scrutiny committees, to say, wow, did we deserve all of that? And hopefully we did, because the people of Caerphilly have had all that they deserved and would have hoped for from Caerphilly County Borough Council.
Yeah.
And so thanks very much for that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no other questions? So we are voting on this one, Mark, am I right?
No, Chair, we're not
No,
voting. The recommendations on page 28, the Scrutiny Committee is asked to review the attached document, Appendix A, and discuss, challenge and scrutinise the information contained within, which is what the committee's just done.
Okie doke. Right, thank you very much for that information and clarification of where we need to go. Right, thank you very much. And I can see that Councillor Whiting is already turned his camera on, ready for the next report. And let's get to that one. It's item number 10, the Sport and Active Recreation Strategy Progress Update. So it's on page, wherever it is. Let's go through all of Mark's last heavyweight report.
Yeah, takes a bit of scrolling, Chair.
It does, yes, all of the appendices. Nearly there, here we go. Environment and Sustainability Scrutiny Committee, 14th of September 2021. Sport and Active Recreation Strategy Progress Update. And I take it's Councillor Ross Whiting, Cabinet Member, to introduce that. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As members will know, the Sport and Active Recreation Strategy sets out an ambitious and holistic vision for the delivery of sport and active recreation across the county borough. Overall, it aims to improve the health and well-being of our communities. It was agreed following extensive consultations in November 2018 and was implemented from the 1st of January 2019. This evening's report provides members with an update on the progress made in delivering this strategy since its implementation. Members will see throughout the report some very significant progress has been made in delivering the objectives of this strategy, even despite the unprecedented and extensive challenges linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic, disruptive though it has been, has not prevented us from delivering on this strategy, and I'd like to put on record my thanks to our sports and leisure team for their phenomenal work in these hard circumstances. The projects that have been delivered have in some cases been made possible thanks to funding brought in through the development of collaborative arrangements. This includes the new athletics track in Oakdale, the enhancement of several 3G pitches, and other projects members will find under 5.7 of the report. Members will also see that in addition to the range of projects that have already been completed, a range of future projects, developments, and prospects have been identified under 5.19 in the report. These projects will further increase opportunities for residents to engage in sport and active recreation. So the recommendations of this report are under 3.1 that the Scrutiny Committee are asked to consider and acknowledge the progress made to date in delivering the sport and active recreation strategy, and under 3.2 that officers prepare suitable update reports to the Scrutiny Committee in accordance with its forward work programme. And I believe there may be officers who might want to add some further detail on the range of projects that have been achieved to date and the further projects that are planned for the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. And that was a question I was going to ask. Did any of the other officers who've come across to us tonight want to add to that and give us any specific detail? And I can see that we have Rob Hartson is the first one to jump in. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have jumped in. We're joined as well by Jeff Reynolds, our Leisure Facilities Manager, and by Jared Lucker, our Sports Development Manager. So I think it'd be appropriate if Jeff just said a few words, if that's okay, Chair, and then Jared as well, just for sort of the two sides of of their business, so to speak. Just from my part, I just want to emphasise this is a sport and active recreation strategy that isn't just about our facilities. It's about the broader participation and engagement in sport and opportunities for physical activity as well. So broader contribution to well-being, brings in our parks and countryside, our green infrastructure as well, and our important work with other partners. But I'll leave it to Jeff and Jared just to fill in a little more detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Rob. Give it a go then, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for everyone to date. Yeah, I think an interesting update report to write, given the circumstances and the environment we've been operating in for pretty much the majority of the time that since the strategy was adopted. I think before touching on any of the detail contained within, I think it's important, and it was pleased that Mark recognised it earlier on, has been mentioned throughout the work of the sport and leisure staff throughout this period of COVID times. It's been nothing short of remarkable, Chair, in terms of their flexibility, their willingness, their ability to have and turn their hand to so many other projects and so many other areas of work that have supported the authorities' approach to managing COVID across the county borough and working in partnership with many others. So I'd certainly like to place on record my thanks for all of my team and all of Jared's team in terms of the work that they've done. I think in terms of the report, I'd like to say that it's fairly self-explanatory in respect that it sets out significant progress made, particularly in terms of facility developments across the time that the strategy's been in place, and as I mentioned earlier, across this particularly challenging time. I think developing projects such as the improvements to the 3G pitches is particularly pleasing, and certainly places Caerphilly in very much a league of its own across Wales in terms of our provision there. The athletics track, I'm sure we will all agree, has been a long time coming and will certainly play a significant role in the opportunities presented to people in the future. And certainly the projects that we've outlined and some of the partnership agreements that we've managed to ascertain and to work with to allow some of those projects to happen. I think also what was important was particularly during this time of COVID, that we were also able to continue to offer a broad range of activities to people through some targeted interventions, which I'm sure Jared will touch on with the National Exercise Referral Scheme, but also the way, again, that our staff were able to flex and turn their hand to delivering, in some instances, live programmes via social media, and in other instances, the creation of a catalogue of, and I think importantly, free to access programmes for our customers to contain an engagement with us, but also continue their approach to leading active and healthy lifestyles, which is really what underpins the strategy. So I think that covers it from my perspective. I'll hand over to Jared, who I'm sure will have a couple of other comments to add in as well, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And, yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just picking up on what Jeff said and a couple of other things really, and I know you alluded to in other areas. It's the staff, the way the staff sort of fronted up. It was certainly a very challenging time. That was remarkable, and everybody was prepared to. And I know we talk about playing our part in terms of strategy. That's exactly what staff were prepared to do. They were prepared to do whatever was needed to help us move forward. Yeah, a couple of things, I think when we talk about finances and how difficult things can be, Jeff alluded to it there, but in the report, when you see the enhancements to some of the facilities, it's the work of the collaboration. We can't do it on our own. We've worked with partners, as the report is outlining externally, WRU, Hockey Wales, Sport Wales. We have brought in over £1.2 million of external funding, which is colossal at this time, for sports facilities, which are non-statutory sometimes. That's a big investment. So, we've been fortunate there to really make sure that we were able to bring those fundings in to develop the facilities, which are for our residents and our communities. Jeff made reference to NERS exercise referral. They're a small team, but to be fair, we've got a lot of people here who've got really serious conditions, and the amount of letters that came in and were shared
was phenomenal. People thanking the team for just being able to be there, and sometimes with the online delivery, just being there as a support mechanism. People live on their own, and sometimes we underestimate what it means to people just to see a friendly face, and that's before we get into the physical activity. So really proud of the work that all the teams have done, as Jeff alluded to. And I think the continuation of this now is more collaboration. You know, we can't do this on our own. We've got fantastic outdoor spaces. Through the pandemic, we saw more people walking, more people cycling, and you know, we got some more good news coming down the road. We're looking to launch opportunities through e-bikes out of Cwmcarn as part of a 60+ program, as well as, you know, we've put a boathouse up in Cwmcarn, and we've done record numbers with outdoor paddleboarding. So it's not just the facilities, as you made reference to. It's great that we've been able to enhance them, but it's also trying to get people using the amazing countryside and the green spaces we've got. So, you know, our job is to provide opportunities, and certainly, you know, when you look at the strategy was 14 months old before the pandemic hit. You know, it's quite remarkable, I think, that the effort that everybody's put in, including our colleagues in education, who've been certainly key across our dual use sites and supporting us in terms of those facility development. It's been really excellent. So yeah, happy to take any questions now that anyone may have, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jared. And I'd like to thank you for the interaction that we've had over the last 15 months or so regarding bowling activities within the borough. Any other questions for Jared, or for Jeff, or even for Rob? Members? I know it's been a good report to read anyway. So we've got Councillor Owen. Come on, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the report. While we're on this, this is really it's a very low-level question, and it's to do with access to our facilities such as leisure centres. Now, I know that like places like Cardiff now, they're playing indoor football and stuff like that, and I actually do that myself in Risca, and we still up to now haven't been allowed to actually take the all for five-a-side football. Is there any reason why we are still in that situation? That's all. It's just, I know it's low level, but I've got the right guys to ask. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Owen. Obviously, probably more of a COVID reopening question, Councillor Owen, but yeah, the return of indoor five-a-side for non-affiliated clubs has been back in place since the 6th of September. So if you've got a booking in place, that can now happen. All of our facilities are now reopened. There is still some restrictions that we need to adhere to, and those can be picked up at a local level at a particular leisure centre, but indoor five-a-side is now returned.
Okay, that's great to know, but I spoke to the manager at Risca Leisure Centre about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't then, and he said we would be informed, you know, but obviously we haven't been informed, but that's no problem, as long as I know that we can get it kicked off again, being the operative term, that's what we will do.
Yeah, I said 2 to 3 weeks ago, it wasn't back in place. We were waiting for some updated guidance. That came through, and we reinstated it from the 6th. So
that's brilliant. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
And as I say, low level, but thank you.
That certainly wasn't low level, Bob, because I've got a question to follow up. It's five-a-side football, as I remember, used to be a bit physical. You could get quite close and being bumped and all of that. So the restrictions are against people who haven't had any vaccination. Are they people who may not have had a test? What kind of restrictions might be applied in circumstances where close contact is usual?
Thank you, Chair. So we're operating within the guidance provided by the Football Association of Wales. So the requirement for indoor five-a-side is that we need to make sure there's good ventilation, and most of our sports centres have good ventilation, so we're quite fortunate there. There's a requirement for a specific risk assessment by each group, although we provide that in partnership with the groups. So we're able to put that in place for them. A number of the considerations need to remain in place. So things like face masks to and from the activity, hand sanitisation, and the clubs are restricted to 12 per group. Plus, they also required to take breaks every 15 minutes. So rather than being able to just play the full 55 minutes, the bookings are slightly shorter. They're 50 minutes at the moment. That's to allow time for appropriate cleaning between each booking.
Yeah.
But there's we need to acknowledge that we don't have staff stood in sports halls making sure they break at 15-minute intervals. There's very much an emphasis upon the hirer. But yeah, there's still requirements for each booking to. So in Councillor Owen's case, whoever he plays five-a-side with, there'll be a requirement for somebody within that group to be the appointed COVID officer, and to take the track and trace and keep a record of that, and then within the group to take those supplementary measures.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Members, any more questions?
Yeah, just to say that. I'll take that back to our group. There's some good information there, that is well worth knowing, and we'll kick it off. And we got a lot of rugby players as well, so there's plenty of contact. So we do get close.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's it. Thanks, Bob.
Yes.
And thanks, Jeff, Jared. Thanks, Rob, because I can't see any more hands up. No, that's about it. Okay, so Mark, that just means that we need to go back to 3.1, and the Scrutiny Committee has to consider and acknowledge the progress made to date in delivering the sport and active recreation strategy, and officers to prepare suitable update reports to the Scrutiny Committee in accordance with its forward work programme.
That's correct, Chair. That's the recommendation. So we just need someone to move and second that, and then we put that to the vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I move.
So, Councillor Priest, move that, Chair.
Okay, that's moved and seconded then, members. Thank you very much. There you are. The form is in the middle of the screen. Please vote now. Anyone unable to vote and need to do it verbally? No.
That's carried unanimously, Chair.
Okay. Right. So that is approved. Thank you very much, everyone, for this evening. I hope I haven't bored you as the chair, and thank you for your confidence in me earlier on. I hope that confidence was really well-founded. So thank you very much, and nothing else to announce, Mark, is there?
No, that's it, Chair.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
So I'll call the meeting to an end. Thank you all very much.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night.